two items. One, approval of warrants 1813 for payroll and payables, and 1813S. And then we also have an adjustment in pay related to a water treatment plant operator.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
That's it, folks.
so that's it for the consent agenda. We do have time for public comment, if anyone is here for public comment. Jane?
I'd like to invite everyone to the Friends of the Hadley Council on Aging third annual wine tasting a week from Thursday, the 12th of October, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Senior Center. Thank you very much.
Okay, and tickets are $15?
$15 in advance or $20 at the door.
Great. Okay, thank you.
On behalf of the cross-country team, I'd like to thank, on behalf of Jeff Mish as well, thank the town for allowing the cross-country team to use the town common yesterday. It worked out very well. Appreciate DPW cleaning the town common up like they always do, but it was very successful, and they're going to be requesting it again on the 24th, if that would be acceptable to everybody as
Part
well.
of that course, did they have to run across Route 9?
They did not. They ran on the south side of 9. They're going to extend it another half of a turn per. There was four people, 4 teams in the meet yesterday. They are now 9-0, Hopkins Academy, on a brand new system. I think the cross country's only been around for 3 years, but they're undefeated this year.
They started it.
Yeah.
That's great.
So again, they're going to be requesting it for the 24th. If you need to submit a new application, I'd be happy to do that or get that going for them.
That would be helpful if we had
We'll
that,
take care of that.
and I'll write it into the 24th already.
Super.
Okay, great. Okay, then for old business, we have a warrant and budget discussion. So we do have a jointly posted meeting tonight, I believe. The Finance Committee's posted?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a full complement of the Finance Committee and Select Board here tonight. David, where would you like us to start?
I think there's a couple of things. First of all, we do have certified free cash. That's something that we've been waiting on. It came in around 11:10 this morning. Emailed it to you, but I'd be happy to bring you up to speed. And
I would like that conversation because we're significantly different.
yes, so we experienced a windfall of free cash that we had not anticipated receiving. I've been telling you since February that we were going to get $500,000 of free cash, and we structured the fall budget around that figure of $500,000. We made a number of funding recommendations, which now can be revised and should be revised. The free cash came in at $863,634.
So $363,000 above what was estimated.
Right, that's right.
Okay.
And part of this is driven by the Route 9 project back a year ago, where we had an artificial hit to free cash in FY17 because of the timing of the borrowing and the reimbursement of the project on Route 9 with the water lines. So that artificial hit in FY17 now carries forward as a windfall for FY18. So we lost it, it's come back, so that accounts for $125,000 of the increase in free cash. We also have enterprise funds, unreserved balances for sewer. That's $461,524, and again, you all have this in writing. For water enterprise, $784,088. And for the cable enterprise fund, and this is the first time for this enterprise fund, it's brand new, they have an undesignated reserve balance of $160,771.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
I guess my question is, we're certified for $863,000. We're told all along it was $474,000. That's $389,000 difference. Subtract the 177 from the Route 9 project from the 389. We still have $212,000. I want some answers where that came from. You know, we went through 8 drafts trying to get this town meeting done, and a lot of hard feelings between this board and the finance committee trying to reconcile all of those figures. And today, we look like a bunch of jerks sitting up here. If this was corporate, they would ask for our resignation, all 5 of us, if it was corporate.
No, they wouldn't.
You know, it's asinine what has happened here.
Okay, so to Donald's point though, David, I think it deserves more of an explanation about the free cash. Because I think the other thing that's important here is that a lot of the genesis of the additional free cash, we're always having a conversation about what's from quote unquote normal operations and what is one time. And I think it's very important to understand what is one time free cash, because we don't want to be utilizing that for operating. So that's an important discussion to have tonight. I believe you, Justin, and Linda did get a breakout on this, so do you want to
Let me walk
fill
you through
everybody in?
it.
Yeah.
All right, so this is how we built to the $864,000 in free cash. We had, in round terms, $575,000 in departmental turnbacks. That's money that was allocated for the departments, but then wasn't used. And in aggregate of all the departments together, that's $575,000. The $125,000 from the Route 9 water loan return, I just explained that. $80,000 came from grants from FY16 last fiscal year, but not reimbursed by the cutoff date for certification. So we have a cutoff date for reimbursable grants, and those grants did get reimbursed, but after the cutoff date, that amounted to $80,000. $45,000 to $50,000 in charges from collections from prior years, in receivables and deferred revenues. Another $35,000 to $40,000 are unspent encumbrances from the prior year being scooped up, net of offsetting grants between 2 years, small receivable accounts, so basically miscellaneous charges. That brings you up to $864,000.
And I think it's important to note too, when I first looked at the over 500,000 rollbacks from the departments, that's really what we're looking at. I mean, for a couple of reasons. One is to say how good is our budgeting, right, for the operations. So it sounds like in some cases we over budgeted. Oftentimes there are very good reasons to be doing that, because there may be some unknowns like weather-related line items that we can't control during the year. But then I believe that some of that rollback, so normally we see something closer to about 300. And some of the rollback that came in from the departments, again, we should really look at as one time. So for example, there were some delays in hiring during the course of the year that caused a rollback at the end of the year, but they're fully loaded in the next budget cycle. So it's good news, obviously, that this went in this direction. To Donald's point, I don't think anybody wants to find out we were that far off. So just so that everybody doesn't get too distracted with that, if I can just jump in quickly, say David led a financial management team meeting today to talk about going forward, like what do we need to do to not be sitting here. So I think my takeaway from that, and Amy, you were there as well, was that the town accountant walked through kind of a rigorous process of deadlines. And the bottom line is not all of the deadlines were met this year. There are reasons for that to happen, but we're also recognizing that it really needs to be run from a project management standpoint with strict deadlines, and if somebody's not hitting a deadline, it needs to be reported out so that everybody's aware of where this stands, coupled with the fact that on the back end of it, normally we would have been having a town meeting October 27th or something like that, and we pushed it up to the 5th, and we all know why. So the whole process got pushed this way. So I prefer tonight, if it's okay, not to spend an awful lot of time trying to figure out who did what to whom and when. We have to deal with this. I think it's an ongoing discussion from a management standpoint, but I think, again, the financial management team did a very good job coming up with a process that should work going forward, so we're not sitting here like this again unless there's some big
But I
You know,
think,
I don't know.
I don't know, maybe my ear was blocked or something, but I didn't really hear you say that an X amount of dollars was held back last year. Did he say that?
What do you mean held back?
Held back when it was supposed to be
The 125.
the 125.
Yeah, there was a cutoff issue.
So I think that's what people need to know, that there was a cutoff
Yeah.
issue, that $125,000 never got put back in to the budget, and that's why we have $125,000 of that money
Right, and that's
that came
not
on board, and that wasn't known to us until,
until
So-
Justin submitted the first round to the state, and the
Right,
state had a
right.
different number, and he was trying to
Right.
reconcile, because they knew that they held it back last year, and we had not added it
You know,
back.
even
this
with
year.
that, we still have 212,000 extra. You know, turn back, you're saying, we knew that figure on June 30th. Everybody turned back in their budgets, didn't we? And now we have 575 and we're told 474 we had in free cash. But we are, if they turned 575 back, we should have known that on June 30th, when everybody had to reconcile.
Well, we did know that number, and we presented it to you. Turnbacks are only part of what goes into free cash.
Well, I know, but that's the only section I'm concerned with. Turnback is 575. So right there, that's 100,000 more just in turnbacks, over and above the 474. Forget the Route 9, forget everything else, but we should have had that figure July 1st.
Yeah, and Donald, I think when you see the deadlines that people have, you'll realize there's still a fair amount of activity that occurs after June 30th, dealing with departmental encumbrances. They hold out payroll, or I'm sorry, they hold a warrant out until actually July 31st. So, again, if we had had the meeting at the end of October, we would still be thinking that we got this very late. I mean, I don't want to deny that, but I think what's important is to differentiate again, what's one time, how would this have changed our discussion? And we would have been saying, even a month ago, we have 800,000, how much of this is one time, how much can be applied to
So,
operations?
this, the free cash figure is only one part of the larger picture. So let's continue talking about the larger picture so that we can then.
Well, I realize
bring this up
that,
to
but
this very moment.
David, the part that irks me is all the phone calls I got from our employees here taking away their stipends. And we had no right doing that with this kind of money. You know, and it's very aggravating when you get hardworking people and they're ready to throw in the towel and quit because you're taking all their stipends away. For the little bit they get, it covers their gas money and that's about it. You know, and to take them away like that is...
It's not unfair.
So, yes.
I had a quick question about certification. Is there anything we can do to get that number any quicker? Anything financially we can do to be more prepared so that we can get that actual certified number any earlier?
We can
Yeah.
hit our deadlines, and that's what has to happen next year.
What we gotta do is start living with the revenues we know we have, not waiting for free cash to evolve to the fall town meeting to live off of free cash. We know what our revenues are, we gotta start biting the bullet and live with our means instead of hypothetical budgets like we've been doing for the last 6 years.
probably the last 15,
So go ahead.
at least since I've been on the board, it's been 15.
So go ahead.
All right, so the Lord provided, and the Lord taketh away. And so we now have to talk about some of the other changes to the budget. We did not meet our FY 2017 actual targets for local receipts. So these are all the liquor licenses and the motel revenue and the excise revenue and the meals tax. We were about $38,000 short on that figure, which has an impact upon what we can legitimately claim for local receipts for FY18. So based upon the best information I have and working with the assessor's office, we reduced the local receipts for FY18 by $45,000. And that's shown on your sheet here.
Why did we go above the 38?
Because we had estimated additional Not only did we not make 17, but we had increased our local receipts for 18. We had to pull that back by the 38 plus our increase in 18.
David, I'm sorry, when you say your sheet, what sheet are we supposed to have in front of us right now?
This one.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Got it.
Which one?
Revenues?
Expenditures.
This is expenses in front of me, but I'm assuming revenues are, they're down below. There's a revenue summary down here.
so if you go 5 pages in,
Yes, please.
Could I have 2 please, Ron?
Yeah.
That's someone.
Doesn't go 5 pages. So I got the wrong one.
Yeah, just get the numbers of revenue on here.
all right, on the 5th page, in the column to the right side, where you have a figure of $2,564,369, you'll see above that a debit of $45,364. So that represents our local receipts that had to be adjusted downward. Given the free cash that we have, we can make the following adjustments in the funding strategy. First of all, we do not need the $69,000 of stabilization to balance the budget, so that if you remember correctly, we had used 50,000 of stabilization for the OPEB and 19,042 for the unfunded liability within the pension system. We can now pay for that out of free cash. We have to devote more free cash to recurring revenues within the operating budget because of the shortfall in the revenue side. But it means that we don't need any stabilization for this budget, and that's the best choice, really.
Okay,
Going
so
back-
so the only adjustment made to the revenue is the reduction of 45,000.
That's correct.
Okay, so we're done with revenue.
Done with revenue.
Okay.
So expenses, if you go to Article 1 of this document here,
Do you need a vote on that to process that? No, you're all set the way it is? Okay,
well, I'll be asking for a vote at the very end. when we're
Okay.
ready it all up.
fine, thank you.
Okay. So Article 1 here looks a lot like the Article 1 that I passed out a week or so ago when we first posted the town meeting warrant. There are some small changes here, and I'd like to walk you through it. The changes are basically driven by the distribution of stipends to elected officials for the first quarter. We've paid something out. We have no mechanism to claw it back. So I've adjusted the budget in order to account for the fact that there has been some payment out. So if you look at the select board salaries under 122, where it says 350 and 900, formerly that was 0. That represents the money that's already been paid out. If you look at the assessors 144, you see 670 and 1,071. That represents money we've already paid out.
What are you looking at?
Just looking at this,
Which one are you using? We got 2 of them here,
Right.
so
Talking
Special
points.
town meeting warrant, he's looking at
your special.
articles,
Talking
motions, and talking points.
Because this one has 00.
Yeah, that's the old.
That was the old
posted
one.
Huh?
That's
That was the
posted
old one.
This is the posted one.
That's the posted
so
one.
we should label one original and one
So you should be on the one that
proposed.
says talking
I
points.
think one up here, this one. Because that one I printed it from. This I took off the top. Can I have one of those, please? Still says 00.
This is the original.
They say
I think
00.
the finance
Yeah,
committee
don't
needs
do,
those
don't
two
look at the
miles.
00 ones.
Probably the finance
That's all
committee.
the-
What's on the
You
table?
have them already?
That's what's on the
Yeah.
table.
But those
Good.
are the old ones, I think.
All right, so you should be looking at the one that's labeled talking points.
I don't know that there are
Articles.
copies for that for people up here.
Well, so we need to get rid of the one that doesn't say talking points,
Well,
that's
then-
not valid anymore, right?
Well,
Right.
it is valid in the fact that you posted it, so that right now is the official one.
Do you want me to make some copies?
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you.
Okay.
of the whole thing, David, or just the first 2 pages? But the rest of it's not going to change, is it?
Yeah, the articles 1 through 5 are the ones still in play. So everybody got talking points? Who doesn't have the talking points? You don't have talking points. You don't have talking points. You guys got talking points?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
All right, let's see, just running through there. Those are the only changes that I have made between the posted warrant and what is in front of us right now. So very minor changes.
What about the park commission? They're still at 0? You didn't?
They haven't taken any distributions so far.
So if we want to change that, we'll motion that in. To put the...
Tonight, you're saying?
These have already been paid out, Donald?
Yeah, I understand that.
Yes, tonight.
But that's the other thing that we have to discuss. That's about the only other area, right?
That's the only thing in the budget right now.
Okay.
Yep.
I would also like to talk about applying some of the free cash to some of the capital things that capital projects that we were looking to borrow against.
Okay, so let's move forward to Article 4.
You want to stay on one first, and
Yeah,
if there's going to be a
finish one.
motion to, I'd like to make a motion that we reinstate the salaries to the select board, the finance committee, the assessors, and to the park and rec, back to what was prior to asking them to be relieved of their stipends this year.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, second for discussion.
For discussion.
Why?
Because I think that, to Donald's point, that these people we're taking this out mid-year, and I want to leave it alone. If there's money available in the free cash to finish that out, so that we can have a talking regarding that next budget season, versus taking this away like in midstream like we're doing here.
Finance committee's also zeroed out, right?
I said finance committee.
Yeah, no, I'm just
I
double
took
checking.
all 4 of them is what
Yeah.
my recommendation was. And
So
it was
what does that total come to?
I mean, it's not much.
I'm gonna do an analogy, as we did when we were on school committee, and they instituted, to play sports, you had to pay a fee. But the one thing I didn't like about it, and I voted no, and actually I did not pay the fee, because I didn't feel it was important, it was correct to ask for a change in the policy, where you would have to pay. It should have happened when you were doing budget, not in the middle of the season. So that's how I'm comparing this to this at this point. As long as there is money there. If there was not money there, then I would be saying, no, let's just keep it. Because I don't have a problem giving up my $1,200. I said that last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever. I don't have a problem with that. It's pennies to me I gave up things, whatever it is. But I'm just saying it doesn't make a difference. But for all these other people that we really didn't have any discussion with, we went through the assessor's ban, instead of having conversation with the assessors themselves that are elected officials, and Park and Rec or whoever else, without, saying anything about their stipends. And I think that's a very important discussion for us to have for the 2019 budget. And I'm willing to, go that route and, do whatever we need to do for the next budget. So that's where I would be coming from.
So
Joyce,
I'll
you
make a
asked the total, it's about $4,841 total.
I got something a little higher than that.
What did you come up with?
69 or something.
6,000.
Not 9,000.
We'll still have something now.
So I'll take the minority position here, but I'll explain myself. The reason I think we should leave it alone, and go with the revised numbers that David presented tonight. I mean, of course, you're not going to take back something that you already paid somebody. I mean, it's wrong, and it's also a payroll nightmare on top of it, so I mean, why would you do that? But, you know, I think that we've been talking a lot about the concerns, and some people have been extremely vocal about FY19 and what FY19 might look like. We haven't run the numbers yet, but don't forget that when you think about the free cash tonight, we had over $500,000 of rollbacks from departments. Some of it unexpected, some of it because the department heads and everybody managing the funds are doing a really good job. So a lot of that is not going to repeat. So when we're looking ahead to next year, you know, I think we need to be staying the course if we really are concerned about our spending, and do everything we can to maximize, again, worst case scenario, we're maximizing free cash that might be rolling in at the end of the year. So I know it's not a lot of money. I get it. I understand what you're saying too from a human resource standpoint. It's kind of a lousy thing to do. But we're not talking about employees. We're talking about volunteers and elected officials. And I don't think anybody does this for the money. If they are, we really need to have a chat with them. But, you know, so it seemed like a fairly innocuous way to make a statement to everybody that we all need to be pitching in where we can. And so for that reason, I'd like to stay the course, and so I'm not in favor of reinstating these. But yeah, I certainly understand and appreciate where other people are coming from.
I got some of those phone calls that Donald did, and I was under the impression that that the other departments, the assessors and Park and Rec, were on board with it, and I found out subsequent that they weren't necessarily. So I was a little disappointed that I hadn't heard that input before I had a chance to vote on it the first time, because I think volunteers are a very important thing, and nobody does this for the money. You're 100% right. But it's a little bit of a slap mid-season to lose it, so that's why I would support it. It can be up for discussion again next year. I completely understand that, but at this point, I'd rather support it.
Madam Chair, did we ever get an answer back from the attorney that all of these people would voluntarily have to give it up? Or could we actually take it?
You could take it under a two-thirds majority.
I thought we couldn't.
Two-thirds majority vote.
That's what our attorney said?
Yep.
Okay.
Can we have?
2/3 at town meeting.
Two-thirds at town meeting.
Okay, that's a high number.
My opinion would be, I would like to stay the course too, because we are showing the residents of this town that we are committed
Getting the budget straightened
to
out.
getting the budget straightened out. Yes, we don't make a lot of money, and it's not about the money. We meet just as much as you do. And I think anybody who volunteers in this town, they're not doing it for the money, and if they were so worried about their stipends, I don't see anybody here. I see few, that's it. The assessors, I know they know about it, and they're not here questioning it. Park and Rec is here, one person. There's three. So if they have an issue with it, they should be here. I'm just showing them the commitment that I am making to getting the funds straightened out, and so we can improve the town on the things that it needs. Right now, we're fighting for a fire department, but we still need HR, we still need IT, we need a lot. And I think it's gonna take a group effort from all of us. And here we are wishy-washy. I mean, what's that showing everybody?
Not wishy-washy at all. You have the money that's available in the budget now. It wasn't there before.
But again, it's the genesis of the money is free cash.
It's not guaranteed money next year. It's not guaranteed
But
money.
that's what I was saying, Terry, is that given where we are right now and it being available, I think we need to look forward and eliminate it from the budget for next year for 2019. And giving that's telling people now at this point that this is what we're going to do.
Yes,
and-
and I agree. But we're still thinking about an override for those things that we need. So we're showing the people here, we're committed to straightening the budget out, taking from where we can.
Yeah.
And now we're making this effort. Can you help us to be able to get these other things? Has that changed?
And David, wasn't this a recommendation from the Department of Revenue or somebody? How many years ago did they recommend that we eliminate?
2013, they made that recommendation that let part-time elected officials give up their stipends.
And so, again, I'm not trying to be a jerk and punish people.
No,
It's just,
absolutely
again, if we want to pass the red face test, we can't say, we got a couple of phone calls and some people are upset. I don't want to discount that either, but I think if we walk them through and explain it, and help them to understand why we're doing it, we also need to be able to stand up in front of town meeting again saying we've done absolutely everything we can. So it's not like it's found money and it's okay to spend it. Again, this would roll into free, ultimately it's going to come back to us, so. I just don't think we can also then turn around and say, oh my God, FY19 is going to be a mitigated disaster when we're not willing to make any changes right now. So I think we need to change our conversation if people aren't willing to make this change now.
I think that we're gonna be printing off this, you're handing out something at town meeting and then say, oops, let's give us the money back since we found money. It doesn't look good either, because what's printed versus what's we're gonna be talking about. We've printed out the, without the stipends, and now we're gonna go say, oh, well, we found some money, so let's give all the stipends back.
Well, the ones for town meeting aren't printed yet, so there'll be revised figures on it.
Well, it's posted though.
isn't it?
It's posted.
The way I feel about the whole situation, when we left town meeting in April, we had a firm commitment on this budget to all the people, and we were gonna fund that budget. And that's how I feel today, and the townspeople, I believe, feel the same way. In April, we had the budget, we're committed to it. If we have the money, we still should be committed to it.
I hear over and over again in both select board meetings and finance committee meetings, and even this evening, that we should not be relying on free cash to fix things up in the fall town meeting. So then the first thing I hear today is, oh, we should use free cash to fix up this budget. Well, we gotta get
I'm
off
going to be
that.
recommending it for the borrowing as well, because we get borrowing in here for equipment that we're looking to put forth on borrowing.
But
If we have the
that's
money.
different though.
That's
'cause you're-
different. Not
again, it's
borrowing
one-time
money
for one.
is a
Taking
different
something
story.
away from somebody in the middle of the year is baloney in my point. If the money's in the budget and it's there now, and we made commitments to it at the start of the year, again, to everybody's point, if you want to take it away next year and we want to sit and talk to it, and not take it away, to Molly's point, we're not trying to be heartache people up here, but if you're going to start taking things away in the middle of the year, and when there's money available, I don't think that's fair to our elected officials.
We're adding things in the middle of the year. We voted on this budget in April, and everybody seemed to forget about the full-time day fire department. That wasn't in that budget.
But it got funded, didn't it?
It got funded for one person half a year because we borrowed from something else. You
Okay.
You're constantly borrowing from something else to make a Band-Aid fix. And now we're trying to make a statement to the residents. We're really, trying to make an effort to make our funds work for us.
We hear it every town meeting, people stand up and say, we can't tolerate an override because we're on a fixed income and we need to protect those people.
But you now have $365,000 in free cash that you didn't have 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, if you had that $365,000 in free cash, would you have taken the stipends away from the
I'm still
people?
not 100% we're sure where that money even came from.
My point is, would you have taken it away
Don't know.
3 weeks ago?
Don't think so.
Okay.
And you probably would have funded the fire department for 12 months instead of 6 months.
Maybe.
I hear the point about, not talking as thoroughly with the other volunteers about their stipends. Is there a middle ground of subtracting from the select board and the finance committee, since we all seem to be on board with it, and then having a discussion with the boards for FY19 about their stipends? I don't see why we still couldn't make that statement that we, as a leadership, are very committed. But to the points about taking it away halfway through the year, that's valid as well. So.
It's fine, you can have mine, I don't care.
Voluntarily, you can always turn it in.
Yes.
Want to make the motion again to move?
We have a motion and a
Yeah,
second
we
on the
have
floor.
So we have a motion made and second on the floor. Does anybody have any different talking points than what has been said already to the motion that's made and seconded? So the motion right now that we need to follow through on is to reinstate everything. I'm sorry, reinstate the stipends that
Stipends for the
were.
4 departments that was removed from.
So logistically, I have a question about how the articles are working and everything. Since this was already posted, would these essentially be amendments made on town meeting floor the day of? And if so, how are we working in terms of what the finance committee recommends and we'll make amendments and how the select board?
We're both going to be voting, I think, on,
You'll be voting, if you choose to, you can vote on that as well, or just leave it alone. They don't need to vote,
that's right.
because they would just be going forth with what has been put forward already.
Just from a practical point of view, we will have to print out the first article and give it out to everybody. I'm going to print it on green papers so that everybody can easily find it and not be confused on town meeting floor. And we'll make a motion to amend the article based upon, to adopt the green budget as opposed to the one that's printed in the warrant. So that's how we'll handle that part.
Yeah.
Tim, how do you think this is gonna look with, here we are, we have $800,000 free cash, but then in a few months, we plan on asking for an override.
Well, but that's why it's critical to differentiate what is ongoing operations versus one-time money. Clearly, the debt, just as one example, was one time. It was, we got dinged for it last year just because the state, or the actual funds of the borrowing didn't transfer by June 30th, even though everything was in place. And now they're giving it back. That's a non-recurring item. And I think it's really important, again, that we look at these things. Some of them were the changes in receivable balances from year to year. You can't count on that. You have to look at those as non-recurring. The fact that of the 500,000 rollbacks, probably a couple of hundred when we go through it, is related to one-time timing differences in your budget. That's non-recurring. We typically are looking for 300,000 to 500,000 on a normal year of free cash, but we've changed our policy. So honestly, we weren't even expecting, we were expecting that to be a little bit lower. Is that fair? Am I saying it right?
Yeah, so we had, for example, we had a mild winter last year. We have to plan for a regular winter. So you have to budget for the regular winter, and then Mother Nature will dispose what she does.
It couldn't have been that mild because Marlo had to go to the reserve to get money to pay for extra.
So, anyway, so has everybody said what they want to say on this article? Because there's a motion made and seconded, so we should put this to.
One more comment, just a sort of functional
Okay.
thing. All these, David, blanks are gonna be filled in for tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a motion made and seconded to reinstate the balance of the year's stipends for Select Board, Finance Committee, Assessors, and Park and Rec. So,
Does the Finance Committee wish to be taken out of our motion? If you do, I can take you out of the motion. If you, so it doesn't, you have a complete.
I don't agree with it.
You have a completely separate thing tomorrow, so if we made our motion and said the Finance Committee, if they ask why the Finance Committee's taken out, it would be said that you decided to still be part of it. I don't want to fund you if you don't want to be funded. I mean, that's just stupid.
Exactly. I feel I'm staying with my original.
That's fine. How would you like my motion to read? Would you like it to read all 4 departments, or would you like the Finance Committee to be taken out of my motion? I'm asking for a friendly amendment.
I think that if the select board and finance committee together both.
That's not what I asked. I didn't ask about the Select Board. You can have your own amendment if you'd like on your own vote. That's perfectly fine, and I understand that. I'm asking if the Finance Committee would like to be taken out of my amendment.
Yes, I
Yes.
would. Yep.
Stick it 5-0? Okay. I would like to make a friendly amendment based on the recommendation of the Finance Committee that we talk about the Select Board, the Assessors, and the Park and Rec.
okay, so that's the motion that's on the
That
table.
is the motion that is on the table.
Donald, is that the
in a
motion you're
second.
seconding? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No,
I'm gonna say yes, but I will give up my stipend.
and I will as well. Would you like that in writing to the payroll department? Because you, Russ,
It needs to be voted. And we'll wait till after tomorrow night.
Well, we can reinstate it and then voluntarily give it up, and again, it will just come back in the form of free cash. Is that how we do it? However we need to do
Sure,
it.
we'll figure it out.
Yep.
If you leave a slip in my box, I'll sign it, because usually nobody's here when I get out of work at 5 o'clock.
All right. So
It's a joke, Linda.
Okay.
So let's move on to.
Because we know Joni's always here at 5.
Let's move on to Article 4, and that's on page 8. This is transferring free cash into the capital stabilization fund in order to fund the spending in Article 5.
Point of order,
Sure,
shouldn't we do Article 5 first, and then we'll know what Article 4 should be?
okay.
If there's going to be amendments to Article 5, then Article 4.
Article 5, this is a capital article. We had 3 vehicles, a police cruiser for $45,000, the administrative vehicle for the fire department for $47,500, and the Ford F500 truck for the DPW highway for $80,000.
Could I have a quick total on that, please?
$172,500. We had originally proposed that these 3 vehicles be borrowed for, because we had insufficient free cash and capital stabilization funds to cover them. We now have enough free cash to pay for them outright, which is the better way of doing it. It's better use of the taxpayer dollar. One-time money for one-time expenses.
172,500
$172,500.
added to the 52,351.
That would be $224,851 if my math is correct.
Would it be a good business practice to have $15,000 left in the capital stabilization fund for the rest of the year rather than spending it down to 0?
You have that option. You have about, at the end of the day, if you follow my recommendations, you'll have about $79,000 of free cash left that is not put into capital stabilization or used for any other purpose, which fits with your free cash spending policy.
So will that go into emergency fund?
No, it'll stay as free cash until it's recertified next year.
And that was the original commitment we made. We thought we wanted to leave $150K in free cash, and then we reduced it with a board vote to 75.
Right.
And I think that's a good place to leave it, the 79.
Yeah, but now that we've reinstated the stipends, free cash is below the target, just so you know, because we're not at 75, we're at 72.
72, something like that. We call it-
72 is pretty close to 75. I'll be happy with 72.
All right.
Of course you are.
So going back to Article 4, we've got printed in the warrant, 52,351 is going from free cash to capital stabilization. I had a chance to talk to the moderator, and I said, if we increase this to $250,000, let's call it, would that be within the scope of the article? And he said yes. I can double check that with council, and he agreed.
So what's the number now?
235.
224,851, if my math is correct.
So it's not the 53,402 up there, it's the 52.
I'd like to make a motion that we make the amendments to Article number 5 to pay out of free cash rather than borrow the police cruiser, the administrative vehicle for the fire department, and the F500 highway department truck, as was voted Select Board, Finance Committee, and Capital Planning unanimously to be financed via free cash, and amend Article 4's free cash figure to now be, again, I believe you said it was $224,859.
Is there a
51.
second on the motion before discussion?
Second.
Second, okay. And Terry, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just have a question. Since you're giving them stipends back, all the departments that gave us money to come up with the figure for the fire department, shouldn't you be giving their money back to them as well? that we took out of their budgets.
When did we take it out of their budget?
Uh,
Spring?
No, Council on Aging
No,
gave us,
Council on
Council on
Aging
Aging
did
gave
10.
us money.
the treasurer gave us money,
DPW gave
David
us
gave us money.
So I had a chance to talk to Council on Aging and brought them up to speed on the windfall of free cash, and I asked them to think about the 10,000. They have not asked me for that $10,000 back. I've
Well-
given up $500 out of my expense account. I'm not asking for that back. Marlo's given up $742 out of his account. He's not asked for it back.
They wouldn't have given it to us if we didn't ask them for it, so
I did inform them.
if we're gonna make things right, because we have more free cash than expected, those are the first things, in my opinion, that should be going back. If their budget needs to be reduced, well, then we need to reduce it for fiscal year 19. As Donald said, in April, we sat there and voted for fiscal year 18 that they would have this set amount of dollars. We asked them, we asked people to step up to the plate to give us money for the full-time fire department. They willingly did that, some of them, others didn't. I feel that that should go back. If we're talking about budgets and how 18 was funded in April, those things should be given back first before you move on to the next step of spending the rest.
I guess my answer to that is the last 5 years, the average of turn back for the senior center is $11,972 every year. So they've had
It doesn't matter.
$12,000 extra money in their budget for 5 years.
Did you not say, Donald, that in April we voted on a budget for these departments to have said money? Did you not say that?
Yes, but the budget is overinflated because they turn money back.
We don't
So
know
it's
that.
quite obvious.
No,
No, we
I'm
don't
sorry.
know that, yeah?
Hang on.
This is the
Time out.
end of
Time out.
June 30th.
Yeah, no, but time out. Okay, first of all, prudent management practice is to make sure that you secure sufficient funding for what you believe is going to occur. When, in fact, you find efficiencies during the course of the year, you never, ever, ever want to punish your departments by suggesting that they were padding their budgets. On the other hand, if year over year over year, you find...
5 years in a row, Molly.
But we're talking a fairly nominal amount relative to their entire budget, and I don't want us to be sending the wrong message to people, because what it does is it has the opposite effect, and it causes people to say, if I'm going to be criticized for turning money back, then I'm going to take it all and I'm going to spend every last nickel of it, which we have experienced in this town in certain departments. So please, please don't say things like that unless you know them to be...
Well, my thing is, they total all the budgets turned back $575,000. That's a big piece of change.
Yes.
If we knew we were gonna have $575,000, we wouldn't have had any project problems during this budget process.
Oh, yeah.
My feeling is that...
So in other words, all of these budgets have to be scrutinized in 2019.
Well, how much did the select board budget turn back? Because maybe we shouldn't reinstate our stipends then. mean, if
I don't
that's-
know
if that's the
exactly what it
logic
is.
that we're
David
gonna
can tell
use.
us. I can look here, I'll tell you right away.
Yeah, and I think it's
Let
a,
me look.
I think it's a reasonable amount.
Board of Selectmen, they average 5,284 over 5 years.
Okay.
And if we want to save money, let's take our convention out of there. That's about $3,000 or $4,000.
Well, that's actually, so we're supposed to learn something. when we're
Well,
over
I don't
there,
know
so
if
we
it's a
don't wanna take
learning
that out.
experience or not. I think it's a social thing.
So, anyway, so a point is being made by the finance committee, well, but that's, so, does anybody want to entertain that? Because if we do that, then we're now rejiggering these numbers, but I understand the point.
It's in good faith. We asked, they provided. We got it back, we need to give back to them.
Well, if it's good for one, it's good for all.
That's right.
Does that include the 10,000 to your reserve fund?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I feel there's a big difference between salaries and an overall budget. You know, we've taken away people's salaries, they counted on it for their livelihood possibly with those stipends. I don't know if they did or not, but I'm surmising they did. You know, and that's personal money coming out of somebody's wallet. When you're talking about an overall budget, it's a different story.
$10,000 could provide a lot of services for the seniors at the senior center. That's taking away from them. You don't feel that they should get that back?
How does the board feel? I guess, Molly, do you want to call for a vote on this to expedite the process?
Well, I've asked for opinions from the board on the suggestion that's being made. And David, do we know what the total figure would be? Because Linda, you had 10 as well, right?
So it'd be,
1,800.
She had 1,500.
Out of my budget, 1,500, there was 10,000 for a payment loan that I was going to defer, but obviously it's better to pay your loan rather than carry another year of interest. I actually would, I think it's good for the town, that's not my money, I think it's good for us to pay back the debt within the levy, that frees up the levy for paying for something else in the future.
I mean, all those give backs that night made it possible, because we were halfway there just by those give backs.
We've already voted on that. We're talking about equipment now. How do you feel about Article 4? Article 4 is what the motion has been made on. The other
I thought we
article
were
has
on
been made
I
and
thought we
voted.
were on Article 5, borrow free,
No,
borrow
4.
versus free cash.
We're on 4. Article 4 to amend the number.
I felt that we should look at what we took before you can vote on Article
Yeah,
4.
I think the point is it would affect the dollar figure.
It's going to affect what you can pay.
Then tell me which one on Article 5 you want to remove.
Remove or change back to the borrowing would be the question.
Correct.
Right.
Well, what's the figure after you pay back everybody that we took money from?
That's what we're waiting for David to
Figure it out.
So if my math is correct here, it's 22,742.
22,742.
That's right.
What is the number?
No, it's gotta be more than
It's
that.
more than that.
22,742, that's the 10,000 from the seniors, 10,000 from the band, 500 from the administrator, 742 from the DPW, 1,500 from the treasurer.
Oh, right, because you already took out for stabilization.
Right.
Yeah,
And the stipends for the select board members, right?
right.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so that's what's left. So after you pay that back, what do you have left to spend?
It means that we would have free cash at the end of the day,
50.
yeah, something
Roughly
close to
about
50,000.
200,000.
No, 50. You got 72 left if you fund all these projects.
Oh, okay.
Then we had 72
Is
left,
that
not
leaving
79.
75,000 free cash?
Call it 48,000 of free cash on reserved for future use.
48,000.
Yeah, in round terms.
Are we still in discussion phase,
Yep.
Madam Chairman?
Yep, yeah.
So is that leaving 75,000 in free cash for,
No,
48,000.
about 48,000.
and what did the board vote on that you would leave each year?
75. We all approved that. That was our policy,
For 75?
75.
So shouldn't that be 75 go in and not 48,000?
Well, it should be, but
It should be, but we're listening to what you're saying.
So with that figure and looking at Article 5, maybe I need to be caught up to speed. The administrative vehicle for the fire department, the capital planning committee recommended to pass over it. Was there an
Correct.
update since then?
Yes, to vote for it.
They missed our meetings. So the capital planning did not vote for it, but the other two, the finance committee and the select board voted 5-0 in favor of.
So if you add the 75,000 to the 20-something thousand, so we can keep the 75,000 stabilization like you voted on, what is the balance left that we could use for these capital projects, capital items?
Well, if you fund those,
150, 500.
150,000?
You had 172, right?
172,
So if we were 22 short and we needed to take 22 away from the 172,
right. But you're not gonna be short on that. You're gonna have
more.
extra free cash left over, even if you buy those three vehicles.
you'll have 48,000.
You'll have 48,000.
Terry's
left.
looking to make sure that it's kept at 75.
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, will you entertain a motion now?
We have
Or
it
is
on the
discussed
floor
and ended?
Yeah, we have one on the floor.
What is the
right now.
motion?
To
Jerry's
fund
motion.
out of to fund the borrowed vehicles, the police cruiser and the administrative vehicle and the F-150, instead of borrowing, if we were to fund that via free cash, then our new number, our motion is actually on Article number 4 at this point in time, to move the number from $52,351 to $224,859.
Would you accept the friendly amendment to deduct the $22,742 from that figure and leaving $48,000 in free cash?
Yep. Is there a second on the friendly amendment?
Second.
Okay. So what we're talking about now is that Article 5 would continue to be out of free cash or capital stabilization, meaning none of those items would have to go to a borrowing, right? And that we would reinstate the give-ups, if you will, that were presented in good faith to help with the budget balancing at a point in time. And then we're adjusting motion 4's free cash figure to reflect the number that would draw free cash down to approximately $48,000, and we'll get our digits right on this.
So David, in your figure of 20-something thousand, does that include the 10,000 that the finance committee gave out of our reserve fund?
No, it doesn't.
Well, that's should be another one.
Okay, so that knocks it down to 38,000.
So basically, aren't we just going back to the original? No, the original has the cuts in it, never mind. Never mind. The original, before the cuts, became the original. Okay, so basically the question is then, if we did that, how do people feel about drawing free cash down to the 38? We have a policy of 75, it's a policy. We can explain the policy if we choose to take that route.
Before tonight, what were we leaving in free cash going to town meeting before this happened?
72.
Not 72,000,
No, we're down to like
13,000, like,
nothing.
wasn't it? Or zero?
It was zero.
Like zero, yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
Prior to nothing.
Before
prior to
any of this money
I'm sorry,
became
I'm sorry.
available, how much were we leaving in free cash? I know we were moving 52,000 to capitalization, but we were leaving zero in free cash.
That was pretty much all of your free cash right
Everything
there.
was gone.
Yeah.
So now we're leaving 38, so that's a lot higher than zero.
How much was DPW turned back?
742.
700 and something.
Okay.
That's included in the motion too, in the
I know.
22,742,
But if
which
they're
has
get-
gone
if they were
to,
getting a truck and it was $5,000, I would take the $5,000 off of that and use it towards the truck. $700 doesn't change anything.
no.
No.
So my thoughts are on this capital expenditures. I would rather pay out of free cash for these instead of going and asking to borrow, because there's already enough on that November 14th for people to have to think about.
So do we want to split this and just maybe vote on Article 5 and then go back to Article 4? To
Yeah,
try to set, because there are too many moving parts.
The record
Yeah, I think
is
that
not
would
clear
work.
right now.
Right? And then you can continue your thought on the other.
Well, my thoughts are is to go with the free cash in these capital expenditures.
Okay. So would somebody like to withdraw the current
For
motion?
the point of clarity, I will certainly withdraw the motion.
Okay. And would somebody like to make the motion that Article 5, basically Article 5 would stay as is, correct? So we're taking from free cash or stabilization, all of these items, or impact these, right?
Correct.
Right,
So that's 172.5?
right.
Yep.
Additional.
Yep. Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion?
We don't have to, it's left alone.
Yeah, but we already voted on it. No,
It-
we're,
it says-
no, we're changing,
You voted on borrowing.
yeah, we have to
before.
change the borrowing to the free cash. So somebody needs to make a motion that we
It says
have-
free on mine.
I know,
No,
but
it's
that's,
scratched off.
it's
Borrowing
scratched.
scratched off.
Right, so this vote was when we were planning on borrowing.
Okay.
So we need to make a
Okay.
motion now to,
I would like to make a motion that the cruiser, the administrative vehicle, and the F-500 be funded via free cash.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that one's 4-0. Okay, so now back to Article 4. So I guess the question on Article 4 is a couple parts. Do we reinstate everything? Without going through all of that, everybody knows what I mean by that. So do we reinstate, as previously discussed, leaving free cash with a roughly $38,000 balance to be adjusted for actual digits subsequent to this meeting?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to take $32,742 from the 53,402 and then leave the remaining going to capital stabilization.
Can I respectfully say that that will underfund Article 7? So you should fully fund Article 4 at the, call it $250,000.
Article 7's the H cut.
Article 4.
You said Article
You
7.
said
Did I say Article 7?
Yeah.
I meant Article 5, so I beg your pardon.
Can't imagine
So
why.
you're saying what we just voted?
5, 6, 7, 8. Jamil.
So the motion would be to need to change, move that the town transfer from free cash $224,859.
This,
No, that's, go ahead, Linda.
you voted Article 5 for them to come out of free cash.
Right.
Did you mean to vote them out of capital stabilization, and then you're moving free cash into stabilization?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
Good, yes,
so
yes, thank
Yeah.
We'll
you.
make that editorial change.
okay,
Yes,
okay. So the funding source has to line up with where the money,
That's
where
right.
you put the money.
all right, so the columns line up.
All right.
Yeah.
Cocktail tonight.
Well, the 53 was already money we had in free cash that we were allocating.
Correct, we're going to change that.
So what is
number.
that figure you propose?
It changes it to that. That's what we need to fund.
22,742?
That's the 52 that we were already needed for the rest of the articles that were there, and the 172,500 for the 3 additional articles. We're essentially doing exactly what the first motion said, I don't know.
We're just reversing figures, what I said.
Yeah, so.
Is there anything different than what?
How do
the
you
first
want us to
motion was?
frame that, David?
So how about if you say generally that Article 4 should have sufficient transfer of free cash to fully fund the capital stabilization items within Article 5?
We could say that for tonight, but we'll have the actual numbers for the
Yeah.
citizens tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So we don't
Okay.
have to give out wrong numbers tonight inadvertently.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and then the end result of this, again, what we're voting on will be that the funds will be restored as discussed, and free cash will be left at a deficiency to our policy. Okay.
And what was the final number that's gonna be left in free
Oh
cash?
my
It's
God.
about 38,000, but we'll have to refine that.
We'll work on that.
Yeah. Okay, so motion made and seconded? Yes?
Yes, made and
Yep.
seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 That's 4-0?
Yep.
All right. And then there's the restoration of all of the funds amounting to about 32,742.
32,742.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, where are we now?
Article 1 again.
We're back to Article 1.
Is that number changed?
30.
So that goes back to the reserve fund,
32,742.
it goes back to the Council on Aging.
It was 22, wasn't it? 22,742?
No, then 10,000 went back to finance.
10,000 was the reserve fund that was added in.
Understood.
You good with that number?
That's it. It's a wrap.
Okay, so our division of talking points remain the same for tomorrow.
Well, talking points are gonna have to change, just like we changed to have the things in here.
Okay, but I mean, is everybody comfortable still staying the course with their assignments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, somebody has to get
Finance committee's got some votes to make. I don't know if they support it. I don't know if the finance committee supports the change to Article 4
Right.
and 5.
Are you gonna vote tonight or
So you guys
tomorrow?
can vote on that while you're in the meeting too. And if you get that information to David, so it's accurate tomorrow when we talk about it.
Okay.
That's all we've got for the warrant.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Hang on, I'll at least look at the
Second.
agenda first. Okay, so new business warrant for the November 14th election, we have on the agenda as well.
Yes, we do.
Notice to clerk, where we need to vote to send a notice to the town clerk to schedule the ballot vote on Tuesday, November 14th, to decide all items requiring a debt exclusion, including additional funding for the proposed senior center and the construction of a new library. So as of this writing, as far as we know, those are the only two articles, correct?
Those are the only two articles that'll be on that ballot.
Okay.
November 14th.
So does somebody like to make a motion?
So moved.
I don't even know what I'm
Second.
supposed to say tomorrow.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor of sending notice, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, and then our final scheduled item, the DCR and the snow goers. Oh, they have a name? Snow goers?
No goers.
Okay, the snow goers. I didn't know they had a name. Basically, our local Hadley Snowmobile Club have a request. David?
So they're requesting a letter of support from the select board to help them petition the Mass DOT to...
I think they wanted to come and speak to this article. If I could ask that this be put off until they would be able to come and speak to the article. They had some safety concerns that I'm not able to regurgitate that.
Okay.
If I could be so bold, and we'll send information to Mr. Sinkwitz regarding that.
Okay.
Okay.
You would rather hear that, I'm correct? You'd rather hear that information, I'm sure?
Sure.
Val?
What was it?
Safety information regarding undergoing the bike path with the snowmobile club?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I apologize, I was supposed to reiterate that.
Okay. Okay, well then, are there any announcements this evening?
Just one, I'm working on a Selectmen Association dinner, trying to reactivate the Selectmen Association. They haven't had any meetings the last 2 months and lack of attendance. So we're proposing it to have it at North Hadley Sugar Shack. He's gonna do a special all-you-can-eat turkey dinner. And hopefully, the minimum is 40 people. So hopefully, we can get our board to all go, and that gets us a quarter there. So, but I'll give you more information. If it's normally done through the COG. After tomorrow, I may not have their service anymore to do it.
We'd be contracted through 2019, remember?
Yeah, but I mean, if they'll, right now, the president is a selectman from Ware, and she's working on it. And she's also the town clerk there, but they're not members of the COG either. So it's kind of weird. But you'll have more information forthcoming.
Okay.
It's scheduled for December 8th, a Friday night.
Anything else?
I think there was just one passing of Mr. John Felix from Hadley passed. So we send our condolences to his family.
And then, again, just another reminder, Fall Town meeting tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Hopkins Academy. Hope to have a quorum. So I'm sure everybody in this room will see you there, and hopefully many of you watching at home, you will show up as well.
Will Hadley Media be showing the Patriots game?
Yes, that's right. Hadley Media actually,
Red Sox.
on their Facebook page, did a nice job of making it clear that people should show up physically to the town meeting. Don't just sit home and watch streaming video. So thank you for that reminder. Okay.
Can't vote from the
What
streaming
about
video.
our next meetings? When are they scheduled?
Yeah, so our next meeting right now is scheduled for, the select board will not be meeting next week, and we'll be meeting on the 18th. And on the 18th, we can cover the schedule for the remainder of the calendar year, if that's okay with everybody?
Yeah, I think you're scheduled for the 25th as well.
Yeah, I think we took care of those two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we can talk about November,
That
December.
would be the all boards meeting.
On the 25th?
Yep.
Did you know you were coming for that?
Can we get some information what transpired at the financial management meeting? I know you talked about it briefly, but some of the things that came out of that to benefit board members?
Okay. Sorry, Terry.
Can I ask a question when he's done, please?
Sure. Yeah, so basically there were 3 agenda items. So Justin did a walkthrough of the calendar and recommended calendar most specifically for free cash. That was where most of the time was spent, but then also talked about like the end of the year school report and
The Schedule 19, the Schedule A, those kinds of big reports. So things that just happened, such as free cash certification. What is the calendar for that? Can we codify this? Can we put that in the book that everybody signs off on so that they know that what their deadlines and responsibilities are and how we can best coordinate this and keep track of it? The schedule, the end of the year school report and the coordination that happens between your office and the school department for those that information, which is due on October 31st. And then there's additional reporting that we do in order to make sure that we're complying with the other requirements of the Department of Revenue. We also talked about the audit and that we've gone out to bid for the audit services for FY17. We've sent out 4 packages to a very select group of auditors that are recommended by the MMA that they actually know municipal auditing as opposed to any other kind of auditing. That bid is due back on October 17th, and the financial management team will have an opportunity to review the packages before making a recommendation to the select board. The other thing we talked about was the beginning of FY19, and we talked about the processes for putting together the FY19 budget. And in particular, there has to be coordination between the select board and the finance committee with respect to the process, because I think you've articulated different processes, and it's going to be very important for clarity's sake and efficiency's sake that the departments know what they're supposed to be doing and who they're responding to, and what are the requirements and expectations for that. So there should be information exchange. We also talked about long-range financial trend analysis. This is something that I go to Justin every year about this time to update my forecasts and my revenue, expenditure, enterprise debt, the whole range of things that I use to compare things, and that serves as a basis for making policy decisions by the finance committee and the select board. So that's what we covered this morning.
And we also talked about better control over receivables that are distributed, processed throughout. And would you find it helpful if I typed up my notes and I send it to all of the select board members?
Yes, please, you have the time. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll make the time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Terry.
Terry, you have one other thing?
Will you be putting on your agenda for your next meeting or meeting after that, the override discussion and the split tax rate discussion?
We'll be putting the FY19 budget process, and that those are going to be an integral part of that on it. So go ahead.
So I was talking to the assessors about the tax classification hearing, and that, again, with the eye towards making sure that we have the tax rate set and the bills sent out the door no later than December 31st, we thought that it would be best if we had a discussion about the tax rate and the tax classification in mid-November, and then the formal hearing after we've done all the research based upon the conversation that will arise around the table. Have that in either late November or the first week in December. So that's when you'd be taking your formal vote as to whether you maintain a unitary or a split tax rate.
Okay, but this is going to be a significant conversation. I think we're going to have it as a recurring item for a few meetings because everybody's got to get their head wrapped around this. I don't want to shove it into 1 or 2 meetings and expect us
So
to.
we have to know that by the end of November? Because the only way to really know whether or not we're going to need an override is to go through the entire 19 budget and find out where
This-
things are.
This would be for the 18 budget.
Yeah.
or for the 18 budget.
Yeah.
Just,
So we're committed to getting this stuff on the agenda sooner rather than later, so that we can start these discussions.
So who's considered all boards? What are you talking about when you're saying
The
all
tri-board.
boards? Oh, tri-board meeting? Did you know you're having that on?
No, we'd actually talked about all boards.
All boards.
Oh, on the 25th?
Yeah,
We did?
yeah.
Why?
Why? Because that's what you guys decided that you wanted to do.
God, this room's not big enough.
Oh, the original
Okay.
schedule we laid out.
yeah, I won't
Oh,
even be
jeez,
here
I
on
thought
the
we, like, it
25th,
just
so-
happened, I'm like, what? Yeah, that was the schedule we put together a while back. We should probably resurrect that schedule and get the
Yeah.
cobwebs off. Okay.
Well, I'll be in Pennsylvania on the 25th for work.
No.
I'm going.
I'll be making a recommendation that we go to the University of Massachusetts, who's always looking for real projects to work on for towns. Well, a real project is addressing how a tax rate split would affect the town, what the numbers should be. And it's not one of those little projects that's kind of like a working project. We don't want the university with a professor working on making copies for us. We want to give them real projects, give them real numbers from the assessors as to what, how much is involved on Route 9. Let's understand exactly who can be exempt from that, if the farmers can be exempt, or if they can't be exempt. On an independent basis with somebody else looking at those numbers and providing us with a detailed document.
Now, we had Sandy Pooler in here, and I mean, they pretty much recommended the split tax rate to us as long as it coincided with an override at the same time.
We have no numbers, exactly. I mean, you don't know if it
There are
should
gonna be
be.
a lot of questions.
What should the number be? What do we need to fund it? What's the future look like? Now you have a fire department that you're talking about funding, and a significant amount of expenses being paid to the police department now, all being generated off of Route 9, the calls being generated off of Route 9. How do we properly dispense and equate that money to business versus residents in the town, and what does the number actually have to be? And let's let people who do this for a living, and UMass is always trying to come up with real projects to work on. They don't want baloney projects, they want real projects and this is a real teaching opportunity. I think that it's a real learning opportunity for all of us, I think.
Okay, so if that's it then, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, good night, everybody. Thank you.
Not so fast. If,